Austria was one of the first countries to go into a complete lockdown, and it's now at the forefront of exiting the COVID-19 measures. From mid-April, small shops will be allowed to reopen, with restaurants and hotels gradually opening a month later. So could Austria's exit strategy serve as a blueprint for the rest of Europe? Joining me now is the economist at the Austrian Institute of Economic Research, Atanas Pekanov. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Mr. Pekanov, and thank you too for your patience. Just tell us, I mean, how are Austrians viewing this? Is this a sense of back to normal starting next week?
Thank you for having me. Good morning. And let me start with best wishes for a speedy recovery to the Prime Minister. Yes, indeed. Austria has announced first measures into easing the conditions that have been in place for the past month. But I think it is very important to know the context. Austria acted very early on and in a very restrictive manner. So the measures of almost full lockdown have been in place almost for a month. And I think they have been efficient. They have led to a significant improvement. The number of recovered patients in the last days outnumbered the new cases. And this reproduction number is going down. And the government is doing a lot of testing. So they have a good idea of what is going on. So now they have decided maybe this phase of the hammer, basically putting the most drastic measures possible in place, is already time to try the dance phase, which means just lifting certain restrictions off and seeing what is the result of that. And this will start by next week, just opening local small shops. And then only in May, all other shops will open, but actually cafes and restaurants are still to be announced when they will be open. So we don't know. This is just a small step, and I think people find it fine, but it is just fine because of the conditions that have been improving and of the overall picture, which shows the situation is currently under control.
What about people going to work in factories, in farms, in offices and schools? What are the plans for that?
So schools will remain closed. Schools and universities will remain closed. Public gatherings are further banned. So you can see it's not a normalization. It's not a real exit, but it's a normalization to the new normal, which will be just lifting some restrictions, imposing new social norms. Now the masks are obligatory in public spaces, in supermarkets. And basically the same instructions as before stay in place. You can only go out of your home for 3 reasons. If you have urgent work that you cannot do from home, so all businesses and firms that can work from home should do that. You can exit if you have to help somebody else, and you can exit your home if you have to go to buy some food or something else from the store. But otherwise, the situation is still pretty restrictive. And that is important. It seems this is working so far.
And your month of lockdown was actually rather stricter than ours here in the UK, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. I think so.
What about the borders? Because Austria closed its borders. Are they going to remain closed?
For now, if you're not a resident or a citizen of Austria, I think they will be closed for a while. But I think they're looking for solutions for that going forward.
How do you feel about the European Union? Austria, of course, is a member of the European Union. Do you think that there has been sufficient solidarity? You're an economist, and obviously the Italians, for example, don't feel that way.
I think it's a very difficult situation for the European Union. So in the first phase, we can argue it was a shock for all countries. So they reacted maybe looking after their own interest, and that is completely understandable. Now there is a need for a fiscal response, and you can see that there is a lot of discussion on how best to devise that, and different countries have different opinions, which is also normal. But I think in this phase, we really would need government interventions and fiscal support. And for example, Austria has done a very good stimulus package that supports both households and firms, also similar to the one by the UK Chancellor. These packages are very important so that we can try to manage this freezing of the economy. Basically, we want to freeze the economy now, and firms that are deprived of their revenues should get liquidity to survive. Households should get some kind of funds to smooth the shock that they are getting. And for some countries in Europe, that will be very hard to do on their own. And it's true that Italy and Spain will have difficulties with that. So there will be a need for a common European solution to that.
You would favour that? I mean, people have talked about Corona bonds and a mutualisation of debt, which, might mean that Austrian citizens are paying for some of Italy's problems.
So maybe we should be thinking about not how we name it, but how we make it doable and workable. I think there is a wide support for some common fund, and economists disagree whether that should be through some new instrument or through the Euro budget or through some other one-off instrument. So basically not mutualization of debt in the long run, but only trying to overcome this crisis in a manner that is legally acceptable in the current European treaties. If so-called Corona bonds go out of this, maybe some other measures should be looked after.
OK, thank you very much indeed, Atanas Pekanov, for joining us from Austria. Now, a